Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Merkin. I'm one of the founders of Trade Ideas, and I want to thank everybody for taking their time to join myself and Bob Lang and Brad Williams on this webinar. We know that your time is very valuable, so our goal is to show you some new and interesting ways to look at the data, some things that you might have not seen before, and then each one of us will speak to our area of strength. In terms of myself, I'm going to be presenting the data aspect of it, and Bob Lang, who has a high-level expertise in all areas of options trading, he's going to help us get an idea of what to maybe do with some of this information from a functional and use case perspective. So, again, with that, Bob, do you want to comment before I get started?
Dan, I appreciate that. I appreciate you and Brad having me this afternoon. It's going to be a fun session over here, good learning session for everyone. And as you said, I'm an options trader. I have a service that I have for other options traders. What I really try and do is look for the best potential trade ideas. I trade in higher probability ideas, and I found that the platform that you guys have here is just it's not just outstanding, but it's certainly something that transcends what else out there is being offered by any competitor. So I think that, there are some advantages and disadvantages to every single one of them, and I think some of the advantages that Trade Ideas has are certainly something that that the audience out here is going to find very, very, very useful, and something that they can grab onto and use on a regular basis.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate the compliments, and I'm going to jump right in and get started. And obviously, I'm going to give Bob a chance to comment where it's appropriate. But for everybody who's attending, first of all, let me just a quick apology. I have a little bit of a cold that I'm getting over, and if I may cough or sound a little nasal, is just a little bit of the flu. So Trade Ideas has been in business 10 years, so we're not a startup. We've been in this game for a long time, and we specialize in a couple of very distinct areas of market information. We are one of the premier data mining companies, data visualization companies, and strategy development. So those are three key focal points of what we do. In order to do this, we watch everything programmatically behind the scenes all the time. So as every stock is trading, we're watching every print on every single stock, and our technology keeps statistical baselines on this information as it's happening, so that we're more easily able to show people when is something unusual happening versus something that's noisy or irrelevant. And I think that's one of the key distinctions. And it's kind of really exciting, especially as we jump into the options data part of it, because many people don't know that Trade Ideas also happens to look at options data. So in order for us to get you something exciting and interesting for this presentation, what we wanted to focus on is we wanted to start in one place with this window. And this window is a Trade Ideas custom window that's called our ranked top list. What's interesting about this window is that we do something that nobody else does, which is called multivariable sorting, where we not only let you see a list of information, but we let you sort it in unique ways so that you can see and pinpoint multiple things of interest at once. So I wanted to start in a place where everybody would feel comfortable. So the title of this window is Highest Total Options Volume Today. It has an icon with two little arrows, and you can see the tooltip pop up. Excuse me. So the spiders, SPY, are number one on this list. They had 2.9 million contracts today, followed by GE, followed by the IWM, Apple, Gold, Bank of America, the Triple Qs, Barracks, and the list goes on and on. You will notice that they're color-coded. and this is going to be the interesting part of the next element of data visualization. The darker the black, the more they have traded today. And this kind of gives you that ranked list feeling. But where it really starts to matter is when we allow our users of our technology to shift the data around a little bit. So watch what happens when I resort this data, not just based on this color sort of where what traded the most volume today overall, but what about what had the highest percentage volume out of those names? So this is where you do the dual sorting. And notice right away General Electric pops up. So I'm going to double click here and put General Electric's on the chart. You can see since January of 20, it's had a nice bullish move. Excuse me. So the total volume today for General Electric was 1.5 million contracts, which is basically almost 20 times the normal average volume amount of 77,000 contracts. Now, you can see how your eyes just are geared to this because notice how it's also in dark black, which means it was one of the higher total volume options players today. Notice how our eyes jump to here, 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 and here. So this is part of this resorting. So while the column is ranked on unusual high percentage options volume, the color stays on the original sort of overall volume. So this is called a multivariable sort. And what's kind of cool about it is that you can really do this with almost any column. So if I resort this list based on percent change from the close, I can see that the stuff that was up today, the BXX, the JCPenney's, the SDS, Merck, they weren't very high on the list of overall options volume because you can see the color is very light. In fact, the BXX was the highest volume. Bob, you see that, right?
Yes, I do. The VXX, correct.
Yeah, so again, so the idea here, guys, is to be able to see the unseen, and that's what we're doing through the sorting and the resorting, getting the different picture of the data, and then combining what we're looking at with the appropriate options data that supports it. And just to go over the columns really quickly, I want to make sure, and by the way, you can see a lot of different columns, but we made this view specifically towards options trading. So this column denotes total options volume today. This column right here with a percentage, this denotes the options volume as a percentage of the average. So with VXX, it traded 139.5% or 39 times, 1.3 times the normal amount. Of that data, it had 127,000 puts and 182,000 calls, with a put-to-call ratio of 0.7 and an average options volume data point of 222,000. So this is what all of these columns mean. And again, there's tooltips that help you see the information. So I can constantly bob and weave and look at the interesting data points to confirm my trading hypothesis. Once again, if I think that the market is, for example, turning over, I can quickly see, well, what had the highest put volume? And again, the spiders, IWM, QQQ, gold, Apple. If I go in the other direction, I can also see, well, what had the highest call volume? General Electric, spiders. So a lot of, maybe again, two sides battling to see which one is going to win. So the other important part of this data is notice there's this visual graphical indicator. This is called our position and range column. And this column allows you to see where the stock is trading in its 20-day range in terms of a percentage. When you see it at all the way red, what you see is that the stock is below its 20-day low. If you see it close to the left-hand side, it's basically almost on 20-day lows, and here it's just in the 17th percentile, whereas General Electric is in the 83rd percentile. So you can quickly, without even looking at a chart, if I'm going to go double click on GLD, I know it's down. And here it is. The chart only confirms what I already know. Same thing with SLV. Already down. Again, I'm now using the charting just as a visual confirmation. Whereas if I want to see something positive, my eyes go right away going to this, and to this, so that I can see the GE positive, Constellation Brands positive, and of course, Google has done very well and is positive as well. But of course, this whole presentation is about options data. And so one of the reasons why I started looking at this information this way is that, you know, our value proposition is we want to show something unique. And what we see here, just in terms of a regular window where you're sorting things by total volume, is that this is what most people are looking at. You know, this is the kind of view that most people have of options data. And that's why typically you see so much trading in the same names. When you're looking at the Spiders or GE or Bank of America or, you know, Intel for that matter, like I said, these are the names that or Microsoft or Citigroup, these are the names that have had the highest option volume for years. And what we at Trade Ideas want to do is we want to kind of give you a different perspective. We want to take this concept of being able to sort the data and look at the data and flip it so that you can find information that isn't easily seen by other people, so that you can be first to the trade. So I'm going to move this window away and then refocus the data on some of the other windows that I've created for this presentation. So in each one of these windows, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's 8 windows. Each one of these windows can be expanded to look like the window that we started with. The window in the upper left-hand corner is a window that's showcasing, and by the way, each one of them has titles so that you can read it. The window in the upper left-hand corner showcases which stocks have had the most unusual percentage increase in volume, and right next to it is the options volume component. So here's what's interesting. Office Max, I'll retype it here. Which has been very volatile. It's had the largest stock volume increase and the largest options increase at the same time. And if you can see the overall data, 20,000 on the call side, 17,000 on the put side. But overall, a 3,000 increase in options. So, Bob, let me ask you a question. You know, when you see something, you know, like an Office Max that's trading 3,000, you know, basically 34 times the normal options activity, what does that, you know, how would you take a look at that information more deeply?
Well, what's important, Dan, is that just seeing that information, it gives me an opportunity to go dig a little further to see what's going on there. And, if there's some news associated with it, or if there's something that I can take advantage of, that it looks like there's going to be a higher price in the next time frame or something like that, it allows me to make a very quick snap decision. Because, as you know, the options, you miss an opportunity by waiting, by delaying, and looking too far into a certain situation. But in this particular case, the great feature is that, these things just pop up. And as we spoke about earlier, I know you're going to probably, I apologize if I'm getting ahead of you here, you're going to talk about it, but the color coding is absolutely just incredible as a way of being able to quickly identify which situations I want to dig into and get to quickly.
Yeah, well, again, I agree with you 100%. And what I really like from our development perspective is that, we're trying to really engage all of your senses so that you can get into this data and be compelled to dig in. In this particular case, the sort color is based on stock information. So the darker the blue, the higher the stock volume happens to be today as a percentage of the average. But man, when I saw this Office Max, it just jumped out to me because right next to it, look at that option. It's they're right neck and neck. And what was really interesting, and this is again to me, but I know you would know how to build the strategy out of it, is that here's something that trades on average 1,100 contracts. Okay, but today it traded 38,000 contracts. That is just unheard of. And you can look at the chart, look at the volume on that. So something is at hand. And while, by the way, just so that everyone knows, I'm not the options expert, but I would be guessing because there's so much volatility increase that maybe this is where you might do better selling some of the premium versus buying some of the premium on speculation. And Bob, again, that's just me giving the amateur guess in this particular situation.
Yeah, that's correct. And well, you know what? When you want to be a seller of premium when options have become really expensive, and prior, I guess there's some news that came out yesterday. It was leaked, and then they're going to hook up with Office Depot, and then it was kind of confirmed today. Maybe it wasn't confirmed. I don't know, but the options started getting juiced not too long after that, and then we see, and like you said, you're right. When the premiums get pumped up like that, you want to be a net seller and not necessarily buying those particular options. But and like I said, what the platform here allows you to do is it gives you a starting point where you're going to go, and that's really critical. There's not a lot of things out there that allow you to at least giving you a starting point, other than just some raw data that you might have on a feed that you're using with maybe your trading platform. But this takes it to another level.
Right, and that's really been our goal. So what I'm going to do real quick is just give you guys another resort of this information. Remember, we're still on the basic view of the color-coded sort of what's up the most in stock volume, but watch what happens when I resort it by options. Now, here's something interesting. What we thought was crazy, Office Max, actually moved to number 3 on the list, as Dinequity and Velasas Communications happen to have traded a higher percentage increase in options than even those did before. And again, this is one of these things where most everybody would have never even looked at these names, much less been trading them, unless they were able to get deeper into the data. And that's the value proposition that we propose, is we want to give you guys the opportunity to get deeper into the data. And here's that beautiful combination of both of them. And you can see, because it's kind of like the darker color, and it's trading 6 times the normal volume. Right here, you can see it on the graph. And oh my goodness, 111 times the average options volume. And pretty even, which is, again, Bob, this is where it's not my expertise to know, but strange, because, again, right in the middle, equal amount of puts and calls, but the average volume is only 135 contracts, so it almost doesn't trade, but all of a sudden that goes to 15,000. That's just unheard of. And the idea here is now you guys know, and you're that much closer to being able to take advantage of that situation. And here's Office Max, again, revisited. Notice also that you can sort by the ratios too, so you can see, well, what has the highest put call ratio? And here it is, it's Asia, okay? And the put call ratio is 16.7, so 50 puts to 3 calls on just 53 contracts. So maybe, in this particular case, it's totally not worth it because it's very low volume. But at least you know that of the things that have any kind of ratio in there, this one happens to be on the extreme. And then the other way around. Same thing. Only 10 contracts traded, but look at AirCap Holdings, which had 1,300, almost all on the call side. So let's take a look at this stock, and here it is. And again, just interesting things that you might never have even looked up or been able to be drawn to. Now you're able to see it because, sorting and resorting the data and being able to see a number of things at once together. Notice here that the AER happens to be trading 3 times the normal stock volume, 6 times the normal options volume, and has a very high call to put ratio. So when you see something that's close to 0, that just means that it's basically almost all calls, 1,300 to 13. So does that?
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
Dan, what I was going to tell you, what's interesting here is if you take a look at the at the presentation at the pane here, what I find interesting is you see some things showing up here now today that you really haven't seen a whole heck of a lot recently. Meaning, look at and this is another good way of identifying. Well, where is where are people putting their bets in the market? And where is that an opportunity to say, okay, well, maybe we have a trend change going on here. What was the significance of today's 1.5% down move in the S&Ps? The Nasdaq was down almost 2%. So and you take a look at a list like this, and then what do you see popping up here? You see the Ultra Gold shares, which is the negative. You see pretty good volume on that one. You also see the ultra short UBS. You see the SCO. You see the SDS, which I saw was up there earlier. So that is also that is also really great information to understand. Where do I want to be placing my bets along with the big money that's coming in on these particular plays.
And just like Bob said, the idea that we want to show you is that without any programming, without having to write scripts, you can just, with a mouse, you're just clicking back and forth and sorting and resorting, looking at what's got the most put to calls versus calls to puts. And then right away, you're using that color sorting technique that we have, the multivariable, to draw into, and here's the ones with the really large stock volume at the same time. So that's the beauty of it, is that, MDCO, again, you're just drawn right to it. And because you can see the graphical indicators, you know that MDCO is basically on 20-day highs, total system services on 20-day lows, and the Pro Shares Ultra Gold is also on 20-day lows. And again, you didn't need to, you almost didn't need to look. You knew it right away. So that's one example of using our technology visually to look at data that you're comfortable with, but taking a different spin on it. And so I'm going to kind of go through I'm trying to go through all of these windows and showcase different bits of this data. And then again, Bob will comment and help us sort through the option strategy part of it. But here's one that I really like, because this is what everyone's been talking about. So this one is a window that's color-coded by what is being talked about the most on Twitter and the social networks. So Trade Ideas, we look at what's called structured data and unstructured data. Excuse me. The structured data is the data that comes directly from the exchanges. Those are all the ARCA, NYSE, Amex, all the standard things, and a lot of data vendors have this. But the unstructured data is things like Twitter, and then the derived data that we create from it, which is things like this. So these two columns are great examples of unstructured data. So in this particular case, PBR partners, and let's double click on that and see, which we already knew because of this red bar is on 20-day lows, is being mentioned on the social networks 10 times the normal amount, and at the same time is trading 3 times the normal options amount and 8 times the normal stock volume amount. And most of it, in terms of the options, is on the put side. And I think that can be seen here. And again, if you can increase the volume, you can kind of see. This is the regular volume bars. This is a daily graph, just to make sure everybody knows, and this is today. So this is a combination of this is the combined view of regular market data with data that you're just not going to get anywhere else. And then you can quickly see that it's negative because you've got a high put to call ratio. And each one of these things are things that you can resort upon. So now, if we take the social data that's in purple and resort it by the options data, this is what we get. Notice our buddy Office Max pops up again. And here's PBR. Your eyes just hone in on it. And of course, Owens Corning. That was a big one today. You're zeroing in on all these big moves. And again, hopefully that gives you the insight to at least start to investigate further to execute the strategy. And that's where our service and Bob's service really become a great tag team, because what Trade Ideas is the best at is giving you the ability to see the data, the visualization, that pointing you in the direction and highlighting something that you might have not seen before. And where Bob takes over is being able to show you, well, now that I'm seeing what Garmin is doing and the fact that Garmin's trading 8 times the normal options amount, 3 times put call ratio. So again, that's certainly very interesting. 15,000 puts to 5,000 calls in this type of situation. That's where his expertise can come in to formulate the kind of option strategy that can be optimized in the best way. And to me, again, this being the rank amateur options trader, I would say anytime I see this type of situation where the volume is so much higher, it's probably an opportunity if you have the ability to maybe sell some premium or certainly take advantage of this type of action in the stock. Bob?
Yes, I totally agree with you, Dan. And like I said, I mean, what I tend to look for as an options trader is, are there any clues that option volume, put call ratios, all that sort of stuff is going to give me any insight into what that stock is going to do in the next time frame? And we discussed earlier, and even yesterday, about one particular stock that we that had actually a good move today was that Joy Global, and you see it's on your list here of social volume. It's also on your prior list too. And what caught my eye yesterday was some pretty good sized volume at the money and out of the money options. And I think I believe when I was talking with Brad yesterday, this one was actually on the top 5 or top 10 list of most active volume options. And you can see here it's in the top 12, 13 that talked about. So this is the sort of thing that I look at, because that really gets me interested in saying, okay, is this something real and this is something meaningful? At one point today, the stock was up over almost $5 when the market was getting drilled. It came down and then it went back up again, and then it succumbed with the rest of the market, but still closed up $1.50 today.
Yep.
Nearly $1.50. So
which is 2%, almost 3%. Rather.
Sure, up 2-3%. I mean, it wasn't an impressive close today by any stretch, but when everything else is getting pasted today, and it still held up pretty strongly, and you didn't see a lot of the sellers in the options that got in earlier today. That's some good information to have there. So this is the sort of thing where I'm telling you that you look at a platform like this, and the ideas pop out at you right away, and you can make a quick decision on is this interesting or not? Is this really something that I can make some money on or not?
Yeah, and you know what's interesting, Bob? You just pointed something so basic that I totally missed at the beginning, which is, you were saying, well, look at